Today's episode of Off the Timeline is titled, What If Arkansas Hired Steve Spurrier in 1987? You remember the 1990s SEC. You remember Steve Spurrier at Florida, lighting up scoreboards, talking trash, and completely changing what football looked like in the South. But what if I told you that version of the SEC didn't exist in an alternate universe? What if Spurrier never went to Florida? What if Arkansas got him first? Because if that happens, Florida's dynasty disappears, the SEC's identity changes, and the entire 1990s college football landscape gets rewritten. And the wild part? It could have plausibly happened. This is alternate history, but it is much closer to reality than you might think. First, let's set the table for the hire that felt wrong. Let's go back to the late 1980s. Arkansas football's in a weird spot. They've got history, they've got pride, but they're stuck between eras. Meanwhile, a young offensive mind is bouncing around the coaching world, still proving himself. That's Steve Spurrier. At that point, he's not the head ball coach yet. He's not the guy who owns the SEC. He's just intriguing, and Arkansas makes the call. Now, you may be thinking to yourself, Arkansas, let that guy run that offense? That's exactly the problem, because Arkansas football at the time, it's physical, it's traditional, it's not built for 45 to 42 games. Even Frank Broyles, the architect of Arkansas football, has his doubts. But here's where the timeline bends. Instead of playing it safe, Arkansas leans in. They hire Spurrier in 1987, and at first, it doesn't work. And that sets the table for early struggles. Year one, they go 6-5. Fans aren't impressed. Boosters are nervous. You start hearing it. This isn't Arkansas football. This isn't going to win in the South. This is too fancy. And for a minute, it looks like the doubters might be right. Because this offense, it's different. It's risky. And in the late 80s in the South, that's not a compliment. But something is building underneath. Quarterbacks are throwing more. Receivers are getting space. And defenses, they're starting to look very uncomfortable. Then it happens. And that sets the table for the night that changed everything. Arkansas versus Texas. Southwest Conference stage. Big lights, old school football. And Arkansas comes out throwing. Not mixing it in, not balancing it, throwing. They hang 45, then 52, and suddenly the game feels different. And you may be thinking to yourself, okay, one game does not change a conference. And normally you'd be right. But this wasn't just a win. This was a targeted message because recruits saw it, coaches saw it, and for the first time, defensive football in the South looked vulnerable. From that moment on, the Southwest Conference starts to change. Games get faster, scores get higher, and Arkansas becomes the most interesting team in the region, but the real ripple has not hit yet. And that sets the table for the Florida effect. Because in our timeline, Florida is the team that makes a hire that changes everything. They hire Spurrier, and the SEC becomes his playground. But in this timeline, that door never opens. Spurrier is already building something at Arkansas. So Florida pivots. They hire someone else. A good coach, a solid coach, but not a revolutionary groundbreaking coach. And just like that, the 1990s SEC changes. There is no offensive takeover in Gainesville. No dynasty. Instead, Arkansas eventually becomes that team. Quarterbacks who have gone to Florida start going to Arkansas. Receivers follow, and suddenly the center of the SEC offense isn't Gainesville, it's at Arkansas. And that sets the table for the new SEC power structure. And this is where we step back and look at the conference. Without Spurrier at Florida, Alabama stays dominant a little bit longer. Tennessee has a clearer path to conference titles, and Arkansas becomes the offensive disruptor. And the SEC, it doesn't evolve the same way, because in our timeline, Spurrier forced everyone to adapt. Here, that pressure is delayed. The spread concepts arrive slower. The culture change happens later. And the SEC you remember feels completely different. And that sets the table for what about Duke? Now, we can't forget about Duke because in our timeline, they got their moment. their late 80s breakthrough under Spurrier, their ACC relevance. In this alternate timeline, that never comes, but they don't disappear. Instead, Duke becomes something else, a spoiler, a team that ruins seasons late in the year, the kind of team nobody wants to play in November. They're not dominant, but they're dangerous. So when you think about 1990s SEC, you probably think about Florida. You probably think about Spurrier. You probably think about an offense that changed everything. But what if that never started in Gainesville, but started at Arkansas instead? Because if one decision changes, one coaching hire, then the entire identity of Southern football changes with it. And the SEC you remember, it might not exist at all. And if you enjoyed this college football alternate history deep dive, hit like, comment, and subscribe, and check out more videos on the end screen. And I will see you in the next timeline.